Hi, I'm Josanne Callender, the author of the Happy Little Garbage Truck picture book and educational system. And I just had a great time this past week um, because I was interviewed for an article for the Parenting magazine. And the topic was, what can parents do to promote social emotional learning? So this was an incredible time for me to recap both what I've learned, observed, and taught over 27 years of working with teachers and parents and teaching children with physical disabilities, learning disabilities, as well as children with autism. And it was a great time to recap what we've been talking about in these talks. First of all, social emotional learning is actually a process. It's a process through which children and adults both learn to understand and manage their emotions. So that's why we're spending a lot of time on interoception because this hidden sense, it's the area that can help a child learn how to identify, understand, and articulate or communicate their feelings, what's going on inside. So we'll get into the activities later on this week, but for the article, um, we were talking, the interviewer and I were talking about what was essential, some of the essential skills that a child can learn at home with the parents, because when a child gets social emotional skills, it's been proven that it just helps not only in the home, but at school and in the workplace because it's actually fostering good working relationships because the child is understanding and feeling good about themselves in a positive light. And they are also able to create and keep good relationships with others. So, we're going to get to those three tips that I gave this interviewer. First of all, I thought that if we're talking about seeing ourselves in a positive light, and that's basically having good self esteem. And self esteem is feeling good about oneself. So I would encourage parents to teach their children to love themselves as they are and celebrate their differences. And we'll get to that point a little later. The second idea and thought that I had was to help the child to make an honest appraisal of both their strengths and also assess the areas that need improvement, and then help the child set positive goals toward improving these areas that are in need of lifting up. And the third point was to foster self-confidence. And the latter 2 points, helping a child feel good about themselves and making honest appraisals and working on the areas that need to be built up, is what builds self-confidence, because that's the ultimate point of having great self-esteem. And it brought to mind this child that I taught in another mid-sized school district who we'll call Bobby, who's born with physical abnormalities. His limbs developed, but his hands and his feet did not. And he had like a mitt that learn. He learned over the course of time how to write holding both hands together and handle his pencil and erase. I mean, this child was unstoppable. He had a fantastic self-esteem and self-confidence, even though he had we knew that there were some physical limitations, but that didn't stop him from playing kickball, from being he was somewhat the class clown, but he he had such a healthy self-esteem that he would tease other children and yet encourage them to he would there was a child who just was giving up, who had no not the level of impact, physical uh, deformities as this child did. And he would turn, he says, "Why don't you just try hard? And, you can do it. Come on, don't be lazy." I mean, he would just give kids a hard time. And, what could they say? They're looking at him and they say, "Well, I guess I can. He's doing it." So, I mean, that kind of self-esteem, and this was like over 40 years ago, and I could still remember this child, see his face. But he had such a wonderful personality because he had this self-confidence that just exuded from him. And he was the I'd say he was the class president because he was the one who kept children going when things looked hard. And when there were some dissensions, he would be the one who would help solve the problem amongst his peers. So, I mean, uh, that was, he was the boy that I would say actually cracked the code on social emotional learning. So, I'm just saying that whatever his parents did at home, I'm sure these 3 key points were part of it, and we could do the same for our children. Build self-esteem, make honest appraisals of what our strengths and our areas of improvement are, and work toward improving those areas, and also build self-confidence because once these areas are achieved, it builds confidence that you can do more and you can achieve other goals. So we're going to continue talking about how to build self-regulation through some skills and activities later on in this week. But and I wanted to, before we went on into that area with interception, just to come back and say, let's build up our children through just encouraging them to have healthy self-esteem, because that's the foundation of social emotional learning. So until next time, I'll see you then. Okay, bye-bye.